Let's make it happen this week. Let's make it happen this week. That's right. That's right. You have too much on the line for you to give up now. And as promised, I'm back and I'm in back. No apologies will be needed. No apologies are necessary. As the wonderful, gifted, and talented and amazing woman Lisa Nichols says, don't ask for permission, serve notice. How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing your comeback coach. Listen, I know this to be true. We are all looking for an opportunity to be the very best version of ourselves and to make the rest of our life the best of our life. And I am here to help you do that. Honey, at 52 years old, full of God's grace and mercy, I would be selfish to keep this to myself. You know what I mean? I recall a time in my life where all hell had broken loose. And I remember wanting to meet this lady because she just looked like she had it going on. The right car, right job, and she had connections. And I was actually what they called a stay in school student for the government. And I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency. Little did people know, not even the people that I worked with, knew that I was living in a very tough situation, a homeless practically, or in an abandoned home. But I still had a dream, and so do you, and a lot of people do. But life can be hard. And while I was working as this stay in school student, we got paid to go to school. So my grades were always on point, a 4.0 GPA, although I did homework by candlelight. Although I stayed at school until the school closed, there was no excuse that was going to, that was going to be good enough. And today we're going to talk about faith and what you need, the 5 things you need for your faith to work for you. Because right now, some people have faith, but you have faith in the wrong thing. You have faith in worry. That's what it is. What you believe in. Some people are so worried that they break out. So people are so worried that they have strokes, because stress will kill you. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show you how to be successful. I'm here to utilize and use the gifts and talents and the stories and the abilities and the insights and that God has afforded me in my lifetime. And so here I was in this situation, and I was working, and I had no idea what I was doing. And that's what faith requires. Sometimes you need faith, and then you'll know it. You know that there can be something better. But then sometimes you won't act on it. Your faith is going to require that you act, baby. That's number 1 right there. It requires that you're going to have to act. You're going to act like it. And sometimes you have to show. And when I would show up at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, I dressed to impress. My grandmother was an educator, and she always said, and she always taught us, never dress the way you feel. If you're feeling bad, take it up a notch. If you're feeling great, take it up a notch. Therefore, they would never, ever, ever know what was going on. But they said it like, you don't look like what you've been through, baby. And that's called mercy, and that is called grace. But so here I am in this situation, and I'm going to class every day, and I'm going to this job. I'm trying to hold it all in. And there was this woman, and she was a professional speaker and coach, and they would bring her in to train the other executives. And at that time, I knew I wanted to be a speaker. And I used to say, I want to be the voice for the voiceless. I want to be like Oprah. And so got to work with these 4 beautiful women. I remember Reggie and Margaret, and one lady's name was Dolores. She was an African-American executive, and the other lady's name was Susan, and she was the executive. Everybody was afraid of Susan. But it was great to be amongst powerful women. And I was coming in, and I had these shoes that I wore, and they hurt my feet. Can we be real? Okay. And one day I took the shoes off, and I put them to the side. And Susan came by, and she goes, if the shoes don't fit, wear them. And I thought, I'm getting fired today. Because sometimes you're out of your element. That's another thing to think about faith. Faith requires that you come out of your element. You got to come out of your comfort zone. But I'm going to give you these 5 key things that I know that are going to bless you. But along the way, I just want to sprinkle some hope in the middle of that. Is that okay? And I remember thinking, man, I just want to meet that lady. And I think the lady's name was Ida. And I'm not going to say her last name, but her name was Ida. And so finally, because of being in the place, Dolores, she set it up so this Dolores could have a session with her, with And so as I went, I was so excited because people pay thousands of dollars to be with this woman and this coach. But one of the things I didn't realize is that although she looked like me or she had something that I wanted, didn't mean she was going to understand my perspective. And so I don't want you to get disappointed, because sometimes in life you may feel like if I could just meet that one person, oh, it's going to help me. It's going to help me. And it's good to want to be around greatness. It's contagious. But at the same time, you have to understand that each of us has our own journey. And so I remember going to dinner with her, and I'm just pouring my little heart out, and she says, Dolores, what have you done with your life? Now, I wasn't expecting that. But at that time, I was a coach for voicing. I figured I could just put my heart out there, and she would give me some direction. Because see, here I was at that time, this young girl from Kansas who buried my mother when I was 5 years old. My mother died of an overdose of heroin, and I look just like her, y'all. I look exactly like my mother. So if you're saying, what does her mother look like? I look just like my mother, Mary Ann Jones. And but when the lady said it to me, it was like she was pointing her nose down at me in a very condescending way. And I told somebody, I said, if I didn't have my relationship with God or faith, I just would have jumped over a bridge. She missed it. And what I wanted to say to this woman, I said, excuse me, because she began to tell me about her daughter. And I didn't care about her daughter. I mean, I was respectful, but I was thinking, but your daughter has you at home and she has her father at home and y'all living large and y'all got it going on. But I'm this girl from Kansas that's finding my way. My father is nowhere to be found. My mother is in a grave. I got a dream. I got a praying grandmother. I go to church. I love God. I do what I know to do. I've picked the wrong relationships, but God is still keeping me, and he's blessed me to have a good mind and good head on my shoulder, but I'm reaching you, but you can't feel me. And you know why? Because some people are out of touch, not because she wanted to be, but she just wasn't for me. So my prayer and hope is that I'm the coach for somebody. Because I know what that feels like, to get so close and you think that that person can feel you. It's called empathy. She couldn't walk in my shoe. She couldn't walk in my shoe, but she's walking in somebody else's shoe. So let's come back here, because apparently this shoe is for you. And they said, if the shoe fits, I want you to wear it, but I also want you to share the video. Can you do that? Can you share the video? Because there's somebody who's sitting there saying, now, what do you do when you don't know what to do? And when somebody says, stand, what is it like? Well, let me give you 5 things that you're going to need for your faith to work. These 5 things, I also believe Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, and Steve Harvey know about these 5 things. The other night, I was laying in my bed, and you have these dreams, and sometimes you feel like, God, are you playing tricks on me? Like, can I just be normal? Can I just go get a regular job? And that's not to discredit anybody else. But for you, greater is calling, right? Greater is calling. And I was talking to my best friend since, oh my God, we were 5th grade. And I said, Lysandra, I call her saying, I said, do you think I'll ever get a job? She said, girl, you ain't gonna never work. Because you were never designed to, Dee Dee. You're supposed to be on a stage. And I was like, man, I used to think something was wrong with me. I would talk to my cousin Kim. I was like, Kim, well, why can't I go get a job, a corporate American job? And so she's like, because that's not your path. And for you, you need to understand that faith, number one, requires flexibility. I know. I wish it was cut and dry, but it's not. It's not cut and dry. Even Steve Harvey knew that. And he was talking about how he got started, and he really was living in his car at some point. And he didn't even have money. But back then you didn't have a cell phone, so he called, and a man was giving him an opportunity, but he didn't have the money to get the airplane ticket. And he said that was the day he was just going to go on back home. And some of us felt like that. He said, but when he called, there was a second message. And the first message was an opportunity. And the second message was, if you come and do this stand-up today, then we can give you the money. And the money was going to make the difference of him getting the $99 that he needed to get all the way to New York. But see, some of us, we don't want to be inconvenienced, but you got to be flexible. And in faith, that requires flexibility. In other words, flexibility. God, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but I know you will do it, even when it looks dark and dim. And so he goes on to share his story that when he got there, one of the other comedians couldn't make it. Come on, y'all. New York, showtime at the Apollo. And so they found out that he was funnier than the guy that was normally going to be there. And so in being flexible, Steve Harvey also realized, he said, there was another person that warmed up the crowd. But he found out that the person who was there to warm up the crowd changed the atmosphere. And he didn't want the atmosphere to change. So he voluntarily said, you ain't even got to have nobody come up here and change the atmosphere because I'm going to keep it going. And before he knew it, he had $750. Come on, somebody. We're talking about faith, things that are necessary for your faith to work for you. You got to be flexible. That's what faith is about, flexibility. And he was flexible. They said they contacted another gentleman, another comedian by the name of, oh Lord, I know the name. Sinbad. But Sinbad couldn't make it because another gig. And then Mr. Cooper, who's the other guy, he couldn't make it because he had quit the show and because he had another gig. But there was Steve Harvey. And I think he said he did that job for 7 years. We're talking about faith requires 5 things for you to get your dreams and to continue to succeed. The first one was flexibility. Now, let me tell you something. Faith in the right thing, honey. It's about a belief system. What do you believe? We hear, who do you believe? I believe the report of the Lord. Well, whose report are you talking about? Are you talking about what the doctor said? Or are you talking about what God said? Which one are you doing? Huh? Come on, let's be real with ourselves. Which one are you talking about? Belief in the right thing. When you have belief in the right thing, then you expect something different. So I gave you the first 2. You got to be flexible. Number 2, you got to have the right belief system. What do you believe? The belief sets sets in your expectation. And your expectation directly impacts your behavior. Now let's talk about the third thing, your mindset. What's on your mind? Feeding your mind the word, a great conversation, a great video, scripture, principles that coincide with where you're trying to go. Because your mindset has a lot to do. That's how you see things. See, when I was homeless, I was like, this can't be it for me. This can't be it for me. I'm going to catch the Metro bus. I'm going to get there before the teachers get there. I'm going to go in the basement. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to sing my song. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do the scriptures. I'm going to do whatever I know to do. And see, it'll work it, but some people won't work. But you need to be flexible and you need to have a belief system and you need to have a mindset, a certain perspective to say that you can rewrite the script, right? Talk about surrender. Oprah talked about that. She wanted this part in the movie Color Purple, right? Remember that one? Yeah. And although she was Oprah, they were telling her they were better actresses than her. And she even had called somebody and they said, you don't call us, we call you. Oh, wait a minute, I understand. And she said she thought it was because she was fat. So she went to the fat farm and she was walking. Sometimes we feel like we're not good enough. As Lord, I thought you called me, but what am I supposed to do? And she got busy and she got to walking. But you know what she did? She said she found herself surrendering because she said, God, now if this is what you have for me, I don't. Why are they rejecting me? It's a part of the process, honey. But faith says God has never forgotten you. He never will, never can, never will. But here was the interesting thing. As she was what she said, it was raining. She said she heard something flapping and clapping. And as it was flapping and clapping, she realized it was her thighs. I laughed because I understood what she was saying. She said, but then the phone, some woman came out who couldn't even pronounce her. Oprah? There's a phone call. It was Steven Spielberg. But the call came when she finally said, God, I surrender it all. I can't control all this, but I believe you gave it to me. She said, but I surrender all. Surrender means take your concerns and just throw them out the window. If God is giving it and God, you are God, I'm just going to keep showing up. And you know what? Spielberg wanted her just the way she was. He said, I heard you were at the fat farm. He said, if you lost 1 pound, You're going to lose the role. She said she left and got 2 scoops of ice cream, baby. Come on, somebody. We're talking about faith. There's the 5 things that work for you. The first thing, you got to surrender that. I talked about your beliefs. I talked about your mindset, the flexibility, and surrender. And the last thing I want to give you real quick, and we'll come back for some more of this, is called perseverance. Honey, Tyler Perry knows that. Tyler Perry, he has spent over $30,000 and maybe 30 people showed up. And that was all the money he had. And he went back and forth with this thing for, I think did he say 7 years? And he said one time, he went on to Atlanta and he was mad. You ever been mad? I remember him giving his testimony. He said he broke that he had to rely on the kindness of strangers. He didn't have $2 for a pack of cookies. Oh, God, don't make me cry. Because I know sometimes you feel like quitting. I know you said you feel like quitting. I've been there. He felt that same way. He said, but God told him to shut up. Has God ever told you to shut up? I know God told me to shut up many times, although I have the gift of gab. Faith requires surrender and perseverance. And when you're surrendering, you're not surrendering to the defeat. You're surrendering to Almighty. You're saying, God, here's my emotions. Now, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know you gave me the dream. And I know I keep coming back and doing it. And Tyler Perry said, he told God, I'm done. He told God told him, shut up. You don't tell me when it's over. He said, look out the window. He said he looked out the window and the line was wrapped around the building. He said, and God said to him, I needed to see if I could trust you. I needed to see if I could prove you. In other words, people are going to let you down. Some will be around when you're high on the hog. But when you're in the valley of the shadow of death, can you fear no evil because you know God is with you and his rod and his staff will comfort you. See, there is a stripping away when it comes to you getting your dream, and you need faith. Somebody said, I have the faith to see the impossible. She said, to receive the impossible, to see the invisible. She said, faith to conquer anything. Faith that will soothe me. Faith to believe, faith to receive, faith on a spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. That's the one thing I've had to learn is God is still doing this for me. See, I went on to the University of Missouri School of Journalism many years ago, and I got my bachelor's of broadcast journalism from the #1 journalism school in the nation at the time. And I came on back to Kansas for love. Y'all know what that is. Shut up. But God showed me some things. He said, girl, I own radio stations and TV stations, and I had got married and I got divorced and I had a son and I honored motherhood. And I said, but God, you're going to just, and then I became a social worker, got that master's degree, and I'm in the nursing home working. I said, God, what's going on? And then an opportunity came for me to go on television for 4 minutes every Monday as the comeback coach. I walked into a room one day and there's Miss Goldstein she was confined to a wheelchair. And I went in to check on her. I said, good morning, Miss Goldstein. How are you? And she looked at me and she said, what are you doing here? I was confused. I said, I'm checking on you. She said, I don't mean that. She said, why aren't you somewhere? You're supposed to be somewhere on television. See, the word says your gift to make room for you. And I was just making 5 minutes every Monday to stop at a TV station before I went into social worker, director of social services. And God continually shows me that it ain't over. Perseverance. I'm coming to a network near you. I had no idea that social media was going to come out and all these opportunities present. But you know what I had to learn? I had to learn to, as my friend Jack A. Daniels would say, and that's his real name, he said, get yourself out the way. Mm-hmm. He said, get yourself out. I said, what is he talking about? He said, Lord, get your, his slogan is stay out of your own way. Stay out of your own way, your own doubt. My lack of confidence. Confidence in myself. I kept putting confidence in what so-and-so said versus what God says. I kept holding myself back because I had faith in what the damage did versus what the divine said. Come on, somebody. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for knowing better, but not doing better. Am I in somebody's driveway today? Huh? But I thank God for other people like you and the other person who took some time to talk to me, like a Oprah and a Tyler Perry and a Sherry and a Mia Redrick and a Evelyn Wilson and some others that said, I'm just going to do it anyway. And then for those who knew it was not going to be easy, and instead of causing you to believe the hype, came someplace and gave their testimony. Now, see, you have more information at your fingertips than you could ever imagine. But the question is, are you studying the right thing? See, faith cometh by hearing. Hearing, I understand the word of God. Hi, Marshall Brooks. I love you, girl. Hearing the word of God. But faith also comes from hearing other crazy stuff. Whose report will you believe? Sometimes I have to check myself and say, Dolores Jones. I'd be like, girl, you tripping. Okay, stop that. Don't say that. Don't you repeat that. This morning, I was up at 4:00 this morning. I kept wrestling. And he said, well, why don't you get up? I said, okay, then, Lord. Put your prayer on. I went and found this prayer on YouTube called Battlefield, the Battle Ready Prayer. Because, baby, every day's a battle. But I know who is the captain of the ship. I know that the what they say that is. Let me slow it down. I know that God never fails. And there's a song I was listening to by Anthony Brown in Group Therapy, and it says, my God always wins. But see, some of us don't want to get in the fight. Faith in the right thing. Faith, knowing that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Didn't say it wasn't going to be formed, meaning it wasn't going to prosper. Faith to understand that God can do anything but fail. Faith to realize that God's timing is the perfect timing. Faith to remember that I surrendered everything. And today, as I was going through my apartment, I realized part of my problem, I was carrying around things I didn't even need because somebody said I did. Some of us have been conditioned to rely on the wrong thing when God is the only thing. Come on, somebody. And that what you need is right there. But you spend too much time being in other people's business, worried about their problems and their perspectives. Somebody said, are you down with OPP? Somebody said, yeah, you know me. I said, no, I ain't down with other people's problems and perspectives. I'm not down with it. It sounds good, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I refuse to do it. Because, number one, I don't have to. In the right thing. The right perspective. See, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm a praise and worshiper. And faith, understanding your position. When you're in position, that's what's going on. We were talking about King David. David was an old little stanky boy out there with the sheep. And he wasn't the likely one to succeed. And you may feel that way because, maybe you weren't popular. Maybe some people are popular for the wrong reasons, but God can still fix that too, okay? But David was the one that said, God, wait a minute. This big giant Philistine, and that giant could be divorce looking you in your face. It could be a termination. It could be an illness. Baby, I know what I'm talking about. But he had experience. And he's like, oh no, he talking smack. He talking about our God. But they were doubting him. And then somebody's like, no, here, you put my stuff on. But no. It was too heavy for him. And see, what is it that God has equipped you to do? Are you the praiser? Are you the dancer? Are you the preacher? Are you the exalter? Are you the Ursha? Or as they would say, Ursha? Can you get in position? And the first position is a sort of a position of surrender. God, I just want to thank you. Or as Denzel Washington once told the kids when he was talking to them, he said, when you go to bed at night, I want you to put your shoes up under the bed. real far up under the bed. So when you get up in the morning, you got to get down on your knees and say, thank you. Listen, it's the anointing that destroys the yokes. It's good to have an academic background. But for those of us that know that we know that we know that we know that faith requires belief in the right thing, a mindset, a perspective that propels you to action to win, ability to understand you ain't running everything. God knows how to move that thing, but can you move? Can you move just like that? Perseverance, when you really want to throw your hands up. Then the last part, you surrender all. But understanding who you are. There is only one Oprah Winfrey. There's only one Tyler Perry. There's only one Steve Harvey. There's only one Dolores Mae Jones. But here's the thing, but God is the God of us all, and we all have our part to play. I just want to know, do you have faith enough? Faith enough to get back out there again. Faith enough, even if you're crying, even if you feel like you're dying. Honey, do you have the faith to say, let me go back and look at that thing again? Do you have enough faith to say, God, I trust you. You'll do it the way you want to do it, when you want to do it, anyhow you want to do it. And can I tell you something? Sometimes you'll get a glimpse of where you're going to go. And then life will try to knock the shout out of you. Come through. Somebody got a book called Life Will Knock the Shout Out of You, because I know what it is. But a few years back, I was center stage with the one and only Oprah Winfrey. Mm-hmm. But I was not focused. But God gave me a taste of it. Hallelujah. Woo! Thank you, God. And then the other day, he gave me a reminder that it's not over. Miss Oprah, I'm looking forward to sitting down with you. I always said I wanted to sit in your garden for Sunday, for your Sunday soul sessions, or whatever you call it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not too long ago, years ago, I had the chance to interview her honey in his own right, the one and only Stedman Graham. And I remember saying to him a few years ago, on my Facebook page, I said, Miss, looking forward to having breakfast and lunch with you and Miss Oprah Winfrey. And at the time, y'all, I was facing eviction. But faith kept telling me to speak things that be not as though they were. I encourage you to do that. And don't you stop doing it. God ain't gonna let you stop. Now you can give it up if you want to. But there's so much more for you. But you got to have faith. Faith without works dead as a doorknob, baby. Said you got to put some action, but the right action. Now you acting, but are you acting in the direction that's going to yield the results that you're looking for? Humility, honey. There's a lot of things that gotta, you gotta learn, as Les Brown's son said, who to count on, and some people you gotta count out. And can I let you know this? I gotta go. But I'll come back, y'all. Okay? I got something for you. I got something more for you. All right? All right.